What's up, guys? So in this video, it's going to be my full-on in-depth review of the YOYOFACTOry American. That is why I actually get this back to my hand. Yeah. So I got this yo-yo on my birthday. So it was really cool. It was kind of like a birthday yo-yo. Right that day. I got it from my buddy Grant Wright, who's a very, very generous yo-yo player. He's always giving me new strings and stuff. New shit. Like pretty much half of my yo-yo collection came from him. So yeah, thanks Grant if you're watching this. But yeah, so today we're going to be talking about the YOYOFACTOry American. Now like about 1-2 days ago, I gave like my first thoughts, my first impressions on the American. Now I feel I've played with it long enough to really do an in-depth review on it. So the stats of the American are pretty much identical to the shutter, in both like diameter, width, stuff. I showed diameter when I said width. I'm an idiot, but yeah, diameter is exactly the same. So is width, and yeah. So naturally, you'd expect it to play. And the shape's also somewhat similar, so naturally you expect it to play quite a lot like the shutter. And I found that to somewhat not be the case. It does, it certainly feels like a shutter in your hand, but but as you can see, if you actually, take the string out, you see that these shapes are actually pretty different from each other. This has like a really, really pronounced H shape. Like it actually just feels like you took an H and turned it into a yo-yo. And this has like that similar H shape, but it's much more angular. It has a much smaller step. It has a step there, but it has an even bigger step here. So naturally, it's definitely got a lot of weight that's concentrated on the rims. So naturally, it is going to spin for quite a long time. It's going to be very stable as it's spinning. Despite that, however, I found that for speed tricks, it can power through them with these. While it is somewhat of a reluctant mover when it comes to speed tricks, it can definitely blaze through them. And, you don't have to try that much harder than you would with something like a shutter or like a horizon, something like that. Now, for tech tricks, because of those really beefy rims, it can go through really long, complicated tech tricks and stuff like that. Because it's got the same width as the shutter, it's also quite nice for meta tricks. I can hit most, if not all, of my meta tricks there. I missed my reverse front stall, but yeah, meta tricks very much doable on the American, so that's definitely a pass. For horizontal, I'd say it's on par with the shutter, but for different reasons. So the reason the shutter is so nice is because it's essentially designed to be a shape that works very well for any horizontal thing. And as you can see with the way it's made, there's very little contact point with the yo-yo because of that step. And because of the even more exaggerated step on the American, there's even less contact point. But on top of that, because of the beefier rims, it can spin on the horizontal plane for much, much longer as well. So if I go for something like a horizontal combo, and I think I'm starting to run out of spin, it's very forgiving. Like even with that small amount of spin, I'm able to do kind of recover it somewhat. I kind of suck, so yeah. But for horizontal, definitely not bad at all. Especially if you're actually good at horizontal. So this is essentially become my default horizontal yo-yo. Because even though it's a bit of a reluctant mover, it's not so much a reluctant mover that horizontal is impossible. So, yeah. Now, what about grinds? That's a bit of a tough question about grinds. So, that's bad. So, looking at the shape of the yo-yo, you see that it pretty much fits perfectly on your finger. So naturally, you'd expect it to do some pretty long finger grinds, but actually, this finish at least is very glossy. So yes, it'll be able to do very long finger grinds, but because of that glossy finish, it's not capable of doing finger grinds that it would be capable of if it had, say, a bead blasted finish, kind of like the shutter that it was based on. And because of the glossy finish, it's also insanely hard to do palm grinds with this yo-yo as well. So, having all that in mind, how does it finger spin? Finger spin's okay. So, like, as you can see, very similar cup to the shutter, which is also an okay finger spin thing. But the thing is, this kind of slides right down in the cup. And you may think of that as an advantage, but actually, if it really starts getting some power in that finger spin, there's a very good chance of it coming out and then finger spinning on the edges, which as we all know, as yo-yo players, is not something we want. And even like as you can see right there, I had a soft finger, but it still kind of went out to the edges. When you have when they say soft finger, you really, really need one with this yo-yo. It's very easy for it to pop out, and that's not something you want. Forgive the sagginess. Yeah. So even when it does start to level itself out, it's really not going to be able to finger spin for that long. You have to bring it back as soon as you possibly can. And yeah. So, my overall thoughts. Amazing, versatile yo-yo. Essentially, I guess you could call it a much more rim-weighted shutter. So, in a sense, because that's essentially what it was. That's essentially what the design of the American is. It's meant to create that missing link between the shutter and the Super G, which, as we all know, like we're both Gentry Stein signature yo-yos. The Super G having super exaggerated limbs, and the shutter having a very all-rounder type sense. So, in a sense, it's really just a really tightly rim-rated shutter, and it can do all the things your shutter can do, as well as some more, given that it's got beefier rims, so it will be able to spin for a lot longer, and it's a lot more stable. Like, I can run through a ton of tricks on just a single throw. Still spinning nice and hard. The only problem is that glossy finish makes it just a tad more difficult for grinds. And finger spins are about as easy on this as they would be on a bimetal shutter. Because this definitely takes its cup straight from the bimetal shutter. Like, it looks like the shutter, but this is definitely the bimetal shutter's cup. Ooh. Did not get it back to my hand. For regens, this is actually a really nice yo-yo for those tricks. But, yeah, it's regens, good. But yeah, that's my review of the YOYOFACTORY American. I really like this yo-yo. I definitely... Like, it'll probably be, like, one of my competition yo-yos. Like, one of the yo-yos I'd use for a competition. You know, if I keep playing with it and I end up liking it more than my shutter, then yeah, right, I'll probably use it for scales. But that's the review. Hope you all enjoyed. I'll see you guys later.